Welcome to Basic Neuroanatomy. Neuroanatomy is a study of the relationship between structures and functions of the nervous system. Our body's nervous system can be divided into two different categories, including central nervous system, also known as CNS, and another being peripheral nervous system, also known as PNS. CNS is consisted of brain and spinal cord, as you can see from this image here, and PNS is consisted of all these peripheral nerves. Our body, or the brain, can be divided into four components, which are brainstem and cerebellum, that cerebellum being this structure, which looks like cauliflower, and also there's a limbic system, and there's a white matter, which is a counterpart of the gray matter, which are essentially cell bodies of neurons, and white matter is the axons of the neuron. And the last but not least, there's a cerebral cortex, which are the surface of our brain. Today, we're going to recognize and characterize the location and morphology of the principal gyri and sulci on the lateral, medial, and inferior aspects of the cerebral hemispheres. First, we have to know what the sulcus and gyruses are. And as you can see from this image right here, our brain is actually consisted of these cell sheets that are very wiggly. And these bumpy parts are called gyrus, and the counterparts are called sulcus. First, we're going to look at the brain from the side, also known as the lateral cerebral anatomy. And we have three principal sulcus in the lateral cerebral anatomy, which are central sulcus, which divides our brain into these two hemispheres, which divides the frontal cortex or frontal lobe from the parietal lobe, and we also have lateral sulcus, which divides frontal lobe and parietal lobe from the temporal lobe. We also have parietal occipital sulcus, which divides parietal lobe and temporal lobe from the occipital lobe right here. First of all, we're going to look at the frontal lobe. So frontal lobe is related to a lot of different functions, such as movements and thoughts, and also cognitive functions. First, we're going to look at this structure right here, which is known as inferior frontal gyrus. And it's responsible for a language processing in an area called a Broca's area. And next, there is the structure right here in the middle called a middle frontal gyrus. And it's related to literacy and numeracy, and also planning movements. So literacy is basically the ability for language, and also numeracy is ability for numbers. And yeah. Next, we're going to see prefrontal cortex, which is this big area right here. And it's related to regulating our thoughts, actions, and emotions. And right here on the very top is so-called a superior frontal gyrus, and it's related to self-awareness and higher cognitive functions. Next, we're going to look at parietal lobe. In parietal lobe, there are two important structures. One is a supramarginal gyrus, which is right here, and it's related to a phonological processing, such as language or music, etc. And also it's related to emotional response. Angular gyrus, which is down there, it looks like a horse hoof, and it's related to language processing. Now we're going to look at the temporal lobe. Temporal lobe, this big gyrus right here, is called superior temporal gyrus. And this part of the brain is related to auditory processing, including language. And it includes this structure, which is so-called a Wernicke's area, and it's a very famous area that's included, that's kind of related to language. And we also have down here, which is inferior temporal gyrus, and it's related to higher cognitive functions such as visual and language processings or comprehensions, and also it's related to language comprehensions, and it's also known for the ability of object recognition. And now we're going to look at occipital lobe. So occipital lobe is pretty much vision processing, although it has other functions, but it's most famous for vision processing. So that was the lateral cerebral anatomy, and now we're going to move forward to a medial cerebral anatomy. So this is looking at the brain. When we cut the brain into half through through the medial dissection, then we can basically see these structures. And first of all, we're going to look at the structure called cingulate sulcus. So cingulate sulcus is right here, and it's related to emotion and also motivations. Next is fornix. Fornix is a structure that is responsible for output or transmitting essential signals to hippocampus, which is area largely responsible for memory construction and processing. We're also going to see this area right here called parieto-occipital sulcus, and we've seen this area in the previous slide, but it's basically divides the parietal lobe from the occipital lobe, as you can see here. And last but not least, we have this lingual gyrus, and this area is related to a visual processing and also visual imagery memories, which makes sense because it's part of the occipital lobe. And also we're going to look at the limbic systems, and we're first going to see thalamus. Thalamus is right here, and it's related to, it's a very important relay station for sensory information to the brain, to a lot of different parts of the brain. It relays the signals. It also does a large amounts of other things. And also there's hypothalamus, as the name suggests, is on the below side of the thalamus, and hypothalamus regulates homeostasis such as temperature and etc. And it's also related to a motivation, and also it regulates autonomic nervous system. And we also have corpus callosum, which is this big structure right here. And corpus callosum is a very important structure that connects two hemispheres of the brain. So connecting the right side of the brain to the left side and vice versa. So that was pretty much it for the medial cerebral anatomy, and we're going to move on to inferior cerebral anatomy, which is looking at the brain from the bottom to the top. So first, one of the most important structure here is that you can see here is a olfactory bulb, and this olfactory bulb is basically responsible for smell, as the name suggests. And we also have from here, we also have this optic nerve right here, an optic chiasm and optic tract that basically connects to here and brings it to occipital lobe for the visual processing. Very cool. And also we have a mammalian bodies right here, and this mammalian body is responsible for related to memories. We also have the hypothalamus right here that we've explored before. And there's also optic chiasm right here. That's also here, and this is a structure also here. And we also have parahippocampal gyrus, and it's also related to memory, just as mammalian bodies. And also we have, um, well, that's pretty much it. But yeah, these two are pretty much, they're both inferior view of the brain, but because there's this brainstem and stuff here, it's this part is hidden, but as it shows, there's a thalamus behind here, and there's also hypothalamus right here. But they're pretty much a similar image, just one is covered and the other is not. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you.